Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Carl Garth, and welcome to the Champion Chat with Councillor Alison Champion. Good afternoon, Alison. How are you today?
Oh, Carl, I am fantastic. Happy to be here as always. Thank you for asking.
Well done. Look, today we are revisiting our series again on social change and local government support, and we're going to have a deeper look at diversity again within the Banyule City. Diversity covers many forms, as we've talked about, not only recognising, respecting and valuing differences based on ethnicity, gender, age, race, religion, disability and sexual orientation, but many others as well, such as unique characteristics of people and their educational background, income level, etc. So joining this, Alison, for this week's chat, we have Phillip and Nos. Welcome to you both.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And I'd love it if you could both sort of introduce yourself and give us a bit of a background of who you are, where you come from, what you do. Nos, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Carl and Alison. So my name's Nos Hosseini. I'm a spokesperson for the Iranian Women's Association. I'm an active member of the Iranian community. I came to Australia when I was 2 years old as a refugee from Iran. I've maintained my social and political activism since I was a teenager.
Wonderful. And Phillip?
Yeah, I'm a multidiscipline artist. I have a multicultural background, Aboriginal and also Celtic, and I reside in the area of Banyule, and a lot of my art practice is sort of started in this area, I suppose. So yeah, it's an important part to me, and it's an area I express a lot of my artworks.
Wonderful. Alison, would you like to provide a little bit of your background and context?
Yes, I'm first generation. Well, I say first generation Australian. So I was actually born in Sydney. Both my parents are immigrants. They both came from very different backgrounds. So one is the 10-pound Brit, came out in the 60s, and so it cost £10 to come here on the boat. Can't do that anymore. The other was actually kicked out of his country soon after Second World War. In Egypt, so there were a lot of British citizens who lived in Alexandria, and they were not necessarily British as in white. They were different nationalities of the British Empire who were living in Alexandria in Egypt. And post Second World War, essentially King Nasser said, if you're not an Egyptian citizen, see you later. You've got 24 hours to get out of here. So my father's family pretty much packed a bag and had to leave, were forced out, whereas my mother chose to come out.
Right.
And so they both ended up in Australia, and they ended up meeting in Sydney and then found each other.
Wonderful.
You go through adversity, they found each other.
What do they say? Love crosses all boundaries.
Yes, it does.
Well, thank you for that. So with today's podcast, I think one of the things a challenge that faces our society today is how to create inclusion and equal opportunity for all, whilst at the same time respecting the differences and allowing them space to grow without impinging on other people's differences, and thereby achieve that multiculturalism that needs to be a really uniquely Australian culture. And so to everybody here, I would actually ask, do you feel that Australians know, agree, or even have a vision of what an Australian culture would actually be? Who'd like to kick off?
Do you want me to start?
Please, Phillip. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a pretty interesting question. I mean, it's a very diverse one. I mean, obviously, historically, Australia, when settlement came, it's the culture prior to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander became when the settlement came. I suppose it became a British rule, and certainly culturally, that's been kind of, for the last few hundred years, kind of been the driving force, I suppose, of where the cultures stem from. Aboriginal culture and has sort of had a back seat in that regard. So we're sort of trying to find ourselves, and obviously with a lot of migrants and immigrants coming through over many generations now. They've all got their culture as well. So, you know, it's certainly something that we're all trying to find where that fit is, and it's such a diverse and deep subject. So yeah, I suppose there's no really short-term solution or answer to it, but I suppose it's really important to understand each other and to celebrate and to if I take sort of Michael Long, it's that walking together as a group and as a nation. So I think that's understanding all nations, all religions, all cultures, and how we move forward. We can only do that by understanding each other. So, yeah, it's as I said, it's very difficult to answer, but yeah, I'll let someone else try and fill in those gaps.
No, it is a big question, and thank you. It was well said. Nos, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I think it's a very tough question, and I think depending on who you ask, some people might say that no, we don't have an Australian culture, whereas others might say, well, our culture is the fact that it's made up of all these different little subcultures. Growing up, I came here when I was 2 years old. It was, we had to start life all over again, learn a new language, get used to our surrounds. We lived in Coburg for a number of years, and there was so much diversity in Coburg, in Brunswick, and we were surrounded by people that looked like us, spoke like us, thought like us, and culturally speaking, we shared similarities. But at the same time, we all sort of felt that it's something that I've sort of reflected on, but at the time I didn't quite feel Australian because I didn't look Australian. I didn't have blonde hair, blue eyes, and as a 5-year-old I'd come home from school and remark to my mum that, well, why didn't you choose for me to have blonde hair and blue eyes so that I fit in? Because I've got brown hair, green eyes, and I thought that that's what Australian meant. I thought that to be Australian, you had to fit a certain mold, you had to look a certain way, you had to have a certain accent. And I spoke English in my mum's accent. She taught me how to speak English. She taught me how to read. And looking back at family videos, I thought, oh, wow, I sound exactly like my mum did. And my accent's evolved, and sort of meet people now and they get surprised when I say that I was born in Iran, because they think, oh, well, no, you've got such an Australian, strong sense of Australianness about you, and you've got such a strong accent. And although I didn't sort of feel like I fit in, and although I didn't feel Australian, I think as I got older, I learned to embrace my Australianness, which I equate with more of a Western sentiment, like more of a Western kind of culture and outlook. And I found this like common ground between my Persian identity and my Australian identity. And I was able to find those similarities and create my own sort of sense of culture. And I think that's the beauty of Australia, where we can merge our identities together and form like this hybrid sense of self.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phil, you mentioned finding a fit. Finding a fit is really... the concept of finding a fit is human. Humans, like attracts like. So, and Noz, you've just said that too when, you talked about growing up in Coburg with a whole lot of others who looked like you. Do you know what? I was just thinking when I say my outlaws because I'm divorced, so my former husband's parents are Italian. Their families are Italian. They came out from Italy in the 50s, and they came out separately. They actually, his parents didn't know each other until they were here in Melbourne. And Carlton, you just went and lived in Carlton. You lived in Station Road in Carlton because that's where they all ended up. And then settled down, had families, and then moved differently. They moved somewhere else. But that community post-war was Carlton. It was little Italy. And it still resonates with many people, next generations on. Carlton is Little Italy. That's an identity, that's a fit. And that's all humans want to do is fit. They just want to belong to a group or belong to a community. And then what does that look like for Australia? What is Australian? And certainly since post-Second World War, you are a melting pot of different cultures. For me, is that Australia? Australia, when I was growing up, same as you, Noz, when I was growing up, I actually wished I was blonde. I was the same. It's like, how come I'm not blonde? When I grow up, I want to have blonde hair. No way. No way on the face of this earth. I'll never do that now. Because I'm settled. I've found my peace. I am who I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and I love who I am, and I'm fine now. But that is that attitude of, I wish I were different from what I am so that I fitted. That's classic. And what I'm hearing from others now, we've got such a diverse group of people who are coming out, expressing themselves, showing that they're different from the next person for whatever reason. And now we're hearing and seeing in society that there is possibly angst. That's what I'm getting, just as someone with huge networks and different conversations. I'm getting that there are people who are questioning why are we talking about different genders? So our last podcast, was mostly around genders, different genders. Well, hang on a minute. Why? Why do we have to acknowledge this? It's like, because these people want to fit. They want to fit in. And they can fit in. Why can't they fit in? They're just humans. We're all human. And we just want to fit in. So that's, what does that look like? And then that becomes, well, what is that? Do we just let our communities, all I want is for communities to work together. That's it. Just want communities to work together, because when communities work together, stuff happens that is great for the community and beyond.
Yeah. And what, that whole thing of diversity, which we have now, by acknowledging and understanding each other, it certainly will build a better and stronger future. And this is by and large, I suppose, where the voice was coming from. It became a bit of a political nightmare in the end, unfortunately, because the two main powerhouses of politics, the Labor and Liberal, originally agreed it wasn't going to be politicised and become a political thing, and then it actually became one of those. So, and then that became divide within Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander communities and mobs, and that became destructive, I suppose, and there was no positive outcome for anyone. It was a very sad sort of outcome, but the whole point of that was that it's about having that voice, and I think everyone within the community, if we're talking, say, Banyule or any in Australia in general, is that we all want to be heard and we want to have our voice, and I think if that voice is there, then we can all learn from each other. So, we're now only, just as an example, understanding, say, we every year we watch the news and we see these devastating bushfires, and then we're now learning through Aboriginal culture that, doing cool burnings is a much more sustainable process, something they've done for tens of thousands to, the millennium. And it works, but before it was ignored and not seen as something that was culturally significant, or that Aboriginal people did farming, or all those sorts of things. And we're now finding out that that's not the case. So the more we can understand each other, there's also a great thing of, we're not that different from each other. We all want the same. We want the same things at the end of the day. So I think that's why, that, and again, sort of, going back to Michael Long with those walking together, that essence of that for me, and I can't speak for all people within the communities, but for me, that's how we're going to be able to heal and move together. And that's embracing everyone from all cultures that have come into Australia, and some by choice, some not by choice, some by history and circumstance, and refugees. Even my partner, her family originally were refugees from Poland and Ukraine. So there's history repeating itself as we speak right now. So we continually to make these same, historical, mistakes, and we don't learn. And that's probably something that culturally, when you're asking that first question, where is our culture at? I still think we've got a long way to go, because we're certainly starting to step in the right direction, but there's a lot of events that we have, but then nothing happens after it. So with Michael's event, as an example, that was 20 years ago he started that initial concept. And if you look back 20 years ago, there's probably on the landscape, it hasn't changed a lot for Aboriginal and Torres Strait people in a lot of areas. So that's where I think we need to, respect and understand everyone, and then make real changes. How do we do those? And there are changes happening. We are starting to see cultural centres being built for all sorts of voices. And like you were saying, we need to belong to somewhere. So that's a great thing, that someone can go somewhere and reconnect or connect with people that are like-minded, but then connect with the whole society outside of that as well. But at the same time, be respected for reconnecting or connecting and not being ostracised for it. Anyway, it's a big topic, but it can go from here.
We're not going to start off with the small questions. We're just going to jump right in. Look, so let's talk a little bit about overcoming some challenges, but obviously we can't really talk nationally. We live at the moment in a local government area, and why don't we talk about some of the challenges associated with education, awareness, legislative and policy. You talked about cultural integration, and Phillip, you mentioned community buildings, etc., and community centres, cultural centres. What are some of the things that can be done or are being done at the Banyule level with council support to help overcome these challenges that the two of you have seen for your community groups, community areas?
Yeah. Do you want me to start, or?
Please, Phillip. Yes. Just jump right in.
Well, I suppose, just two areas that have come to mind straight away in Banyule. One is being an artist and connecting with the arts and culture. I've seen some big inroads with that. We've seen a fantastic development at Bilch, which is the Ivanhoe Library and Cultural Hub. And they've got two state-of-the-art kind of, gallery spaces. They've got artist-run workshops. So straight away, there's a place for artists to actually meet. So again, that's another part of our diversity. It's not just, religious or base or that sort of thing. Sometimes it's a hobby, or it's a practice, or something that connects us as well. So from an artist point of view, being able to meet like-minded artists and have that sort of centre has been a really, really good thing. So there's a place we can exhibit, we can meet, we can consult, and we've from that we've formed the Banyule Open Studio. So we've reached out to other artists, and that sort of evolved through COVID. So that was a great thing, that by again finding like-minded people that had a similar passion, similar beliefs, similar feels. In this case, in the art world, we reached out to each other when you couldn't escape, and we formed, we sort of, by connecting to each other, we kind of formed this group, Banyule Open Studios, and it grew from there. And we got great government council support, and since then we're running our third one this year, which will be in October. So that's really good from that point of view. And then just quickly,
could you just give us a little bit more about Open Studios, Phillip? What it is? How it actually works?
Well, it's basically it's a group of artists within the Banyule community that are all practicing in different ways. Some maybe make jewelry, some are sculptors, some are painters, whatever their practice, textiles. They open their studios or their practices on a weekend where people can literally step into the artist world and experience, I suppose, the artist perspective, their studio and their practice and their workshops. And there's also that ability to encourage maybe artists that are wanting to make that leap. They maybe dabbled in art, but they want to maybe turn their practice into more professional process. Then there's that ability to reconnect as well. So that's basically at the heart of it. It's stepping into the artist world just getting an insight into artist practice.
And how can people find out about Open Studio when it happens and how they can participate?
Yeah, well, they've got the Banyule Open Studios. It's studios with an S. So if they look that up on the website, Google search or whatever, it'll come up straight away. They also have some Instagram platforms and everything. So if you put in Banyule Open Studios, I think also the council have a link to it. It's certainly, if they go through that channel, they'll be able to find out more information from that.
Okay. And Nos?
So I think I've been to many festivals and events that the council have organised, and I haven't noticed any particular events around, multicultural diversity, for example. But I have noticed that at the various events there have been local community groups represented, which is quite nice. I think it would be nice to have some sort of annual festival that showcases different people of different diverse backgrounds, showcasing their culture through cultural performances, dance, music. I think that will be a really nice way for people to connect with each other and learn more about each other as well. And I know that Banyule is a refugee welcome zone, and that probably explains why we have more and more refugees moving into the area. I know that there are many Iranians that are moving into Banyule, and I had the pleasure of attending an annual festival or an annual Persian New Year celebration that was held in Petrie Park, which was quite nice. It's nice that Banyule's so welcoming and allows people to have that space to showcase their culture and to maintain that strong connection with their ethnicity and their cultural background, so that it's not something that they have to leave behind when they end up settling in here. But I think if we sort of focus on doing more community-based roundtables and have different members of the community talk about some of the obstacles and the challenges and ask the community to come up with solutions and strategies around how they can best be assisted in feeling more connected and feeling as though they have that sense of belonging. I think that will be a good place to start. I think, in terms of doing surveys at some of these festivals and events that the council has held is quite helpful. And I think asking the right kind of questions, so not just asking questions, I haven't seen the questions, but just as a suggestion, so not sort of questions that sort of capture the right information will help formulate the sort of data that you'd need to work out what people's needs and wants are, and sort of just working with the community in coming up with workable solutions to some of these things.
Yeah.
So, Nos, you've talked about forums, and Alison, I'm going to come to you in a second on this one, but Nos, what forums are you currently involved with that are bringing forward some of those ideas?
So I work closely with the refugee and asylum seeker community. I think refugees have been demonised for many, many years. Over the course of my time in Australia, I've seen how it's become worse and worse every new term of government. And I think what's missing is that these refugees and asylum seekers haven't had that chance to tell their story and explain why they've had to take the risk and undertake a dangerous journey and come to Australia. And they haven't been able to necessarily explain why they can't go back. And a lot of these people are contributing positively to the Australian community and their local community around them. And they've fit in quite well. And we've organised forums and things over the years to ensure that their voices are being heard by decision makers, by NGOs, by members of parliament across the two levels, as well as at a council level as well, just to make sure that they have that chance to tell their story. So I think it's really important to continue along that journey and to take people on that journey with us and just showcase their stories and give them that platform and that space to show the wider community that they're willing and able and committed to staying here, and that they want to fit in and they do feel like they fit in and this is their home, and they don't see any reason for they can't go back to the place that they fled from.
Yep.
And I think that will help sort of break down those barriers and break down that perception and that myth that that they don't fit in or that they're just this alien person.
Yeah. You make a really good point, Noz. It's sharing your personal story about why this is a safer place to be, why you're allowed to be here for a start, and you are safer here, and you can actually live a great life here because you're being allowed to, because of the structure that we have in this country, this state, this area. Look, going back to the absolute basics of what experiences refugees have in their original country, the genuine experiences that they endure, and go, it's got to be better than this. And then coming here through that journey, and then being allowed or being given the opportunity to share those stories. I know, I understand, we understand, you're prepared to share them. You're prepared to let people hear what it's been like for you. Sometimes the challenge is the other side, as is someone going to listen to you? Who's actually listening to you? So obviously in my role, I get to hear both sides of the story. So I'm actually really privileged to have that. I have that knowledge, both sides of the story. And there are arguments for both. What I will say is that needs to come together, and there needs to be a listening as well as a sharing. And there are many, in this case, refugees who are happy to share. The challenge is finding those who want to listen. And unfortunately, there really are people in our community who don't want to listen. Then there are those who do want to listen and kind of don't want to get it or don't get it. And one of the observations that I made on Sorry Day in 2020, when I was, I think it was Sorry Day 2020 or 2019, one of the two, speaking on the day, I asked the participants there, those who were listening, I asked them to really think about, imagine a particular Sunday afternoon, they might be out on a family event. They might be out at a barbecue. They might be at a friend's place. They might be down the park kicking a footy. I got them to think about what they might like to do as a family unit with friends on a Sunday. That's just a classic Australian thing to do. That's what we do. So that was easy. So then I made the point, okay, now you imagine you're having a great time with your family, you're in the middle of a conversation, you're in the middle of a football match, and suddenly a handful of people drive up in a car and pick up your children, put them in the car and drive away, and you never see those children again. I want you to think about that for you and your family. And then there are those who are children in this scenario. Okay, so as children, as teenagers, you are picked up by complete strangers, as in literally picked up off the ground. You can't walk. You're dumped into a car. You're removed from that site and you are driven off to somewhere you don't know. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going to end up. You never see your family again. That's what was going on in the 1950s, 40s, beyond. So just really humanising the events and bringing them back home to the individual to try and help the understanding. That might not have happened. It didn't happen for me. it kind of happened for my father, being kicked out of his surroundings when he was in his early 20s. And then his parents older and being used to that environment, suddenly being kicked out. And then there's your situation where you're going, we've got to go, we've got to get out of here. And you're in a different environment and you've got to start all over again. As a 2-year-old, you don't get it. You got no understanding of that. And then you're growing up in the community. It's probably easier for you as a 2-year-old than it is for your parents. And it has been for your parents. But our generation, and look, Phil, you made similar generation, there's that great transition from old culture, old home, past life, which is not as good, coming to a better place, better home, and creating. Like, that is the top level of education, creating something out of nothing for a better world for yourselves and your family, your kids, the next kids, and so on and so forth. An amazing vision. That is an amazing vision. And it can be beyond so many other people. And that's the challenge, is for those who have lived a great life in Australia and have had so many opportunity, it really is an in-depth conversation to have with them and get back to the basics. What if this were you? Imagine this, and trying to humanize it that way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the basics that I get to. I get to the basics.
Well, that's a really good approach. I think that would be quite useful, and it helps people understand and relate to the circumstances that someone else has had.
Yeah, and you're not going to reach everyone. Not everyone is going to connect with that. They just won't. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, of course.
But there will be people that you do reach, you know.
So, Alison, we've been talking about forums. From a council's perspective, what is available for these forums to be able to come and engage with council, or even have an area where they can come and express their views?
Okay, so there are a variety. So every, certainly at the end of every term, every couple of years, there's an opportunity for our community, our residents, to apply for participation in a committee. So we have population committees. And so last podcast, Michelle talked about being on the LGBTIQA plus committee. So we have a gender diverse committee. Yep. They are incredibly active. This is a committee, a group of people who represent the communities on the basis of gender, and really wanting to be identified in documents, identified in events. Noz, you just talked about events. Queer Street's a really good example. They want to be identified, not because they have great big egos and they need to be seen. It's just, well, hang on a minute, I'm human too, and I'm a little bit different from you or the majority, and I vote and I want to be acknowledged, and I have a passport, and I actually want to be acknowledged for who I am, and I'm a little bit different from the majority or from the people who've come before me, and I want that to be acknowledged. Then we also have the age-friendly committee, again, another really active committee. So we have, I think it's 55. If you're 55 and older, you're considered sort of the aged community. So I've heard 50 years, which means
thanks, Alison.
Right in there. No, it's really exciting. It's actually really exciting, because it means that so many people can be of a group that gets to participate in a forum or a conversation and create something better for their future. It's actually really exciting. So having been involved in the age-friendly committee in the last term especially, and I think the Mayor, Tom Melican, chairs that now, they're really active. They're going, oh, we want this and we want that, and let's do this, and how about that? And it's great, because it means that by the time we get to the age that they are, they've done it for us, and then we can just contribute to that further. It makes for a better life in Banyule. That's the point of it. So, and there are other committees as well. There's our Disability Inclusion Committee. There's the Reconciliation Multicultural Committee. I haven't had the privilege of being on that committee yet, and at some stage I'd like to be if the opportunity arises. But then there's that angle, you know, what is it like for these community members, especially at this time? We talked about, you know, the referendum, and it got political. It shouldn't be political. It's just human beings who want to be acknowledged and be included in their community so that they can contribute and they feel valued. So there's the Multicultural Committee come up with a whole lot of suggestions, recommendations, and there are a variety of other committees that contribute. They offer suggestions, advice. Some things become recommendations. They actually become council recommendations. So that's a way to contribute and be heard. Be heard. Unless you want to run for a level of government and win a seat, this is another way to be heard. There are also council is often putting out requests for feedback about certain things. So currently there is feedback being requested about housing and housing strategy, which is planning. So that's out at the moment. So if you go to Watermark, you'll see at the entrance of Watermark, there is actually a table set up with feedback forms, pens, and information about what we would like to hear from you about housing in Banyule. Now, if you aren't near Watermark, for example, then you may want to join a forum or be in person or online. So if we take next week, I am very aware that we have for councillors, they're opt-in sessions, but for the community, it is possible to be in a discussion about housing and the future of housing in Banyule. There's also a very contentious one at the moment, cats and dogs in public places. Oh my goodness. We love our pets.
My wife's big on that one.
Yeah. We love our pets.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid you want my pet, who's a member of my family, it's another child, you want to, ban them, or you want to, not let me have them with me when I go out. Oh, heaven forbid. So there's that as well. And so, Carl, you just said that your wife's all over that one because she's very passionate about that. So she's going to contribute to that.
Oh, absolutely. She's already written letters. She's actually a supporter of stronger control where, let's make sure we're doing the right thing for everybody.
Yep. That's right. We don't have to talk about that now.
We will not talk about that right now.
But that gives you an example. So there are conversations that council asks you to be involved in, and they do start with recommendation coming to council. Councillors ask questions about it, vote on it, and look, if we're being asked to get feedback from community, the answer is always yes. We're going to vote for it. So please go out to the community with this. We'd love to hear from them. If it's time to change a policy, then let's hear from them. And we want to hear what people have to say. And we know that there are going to be people who will be disappointed, and we know there are going to be residents who will be elated, which is coming next council meeting with the cats and dogs in public places. So, and then of course we have events, like Noz just mentioned, we have a bunch of events or places for people to have events. So, Carl, we talk about Youth Fest, every year we mention Youth Fest, which celebrates and acknowledges our young people, essentially up to the age of 25. But you know what? They're parts of a family. Loads of people go to the Youth Fest. There's also, I mentioned Queer Street earlier. Lots of people show up at Queer Street. It's a party. Who doesn't want to go to a party? It's a party. So these are some examples that council every year, there's a calendar of events that look to represent, celebrate those particular sections of our community. And you'll find that committee members are behind it, and they meet with us every couple of months. There's a committee meeting, and it's usually chaired by a councillor, and there are senior officers. There are officers who work with us in that space as well. So there's council representation for people to share. There's the Arts and Culture Committee as well. Again, I haven't been on that. I did want to be on that this year, and I didn't quite get there. So there's the Arts and Culture Committee, and you're as vibrant as anybody. Phil, are you on the committee at all, Phil, or you?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Great. What comes out of the Arts and Culture Committee?
Yeah, and well, part of that being on that committee as well, we've been very mindful of being inclusive of all groups as well. So we've approached groups within the art community to be part of the Banyule Open Studios as well. So obviously, the criteria, I suppose, of the base was to have an artistic side to you. But as an example, I'm part of the Barrbunin Beek, which is a Aboriginal centre within the community, and they're now involved heavily within the Banyule Open Studios. So they open up, the centre is opened up to the public, and there'll be works on display by Aboriginal artists and Torres Strait Islander artists within that community, and we've also approached a number of other communities within the broader spectrum as well. So to think about and be involved and be included. So there are opportunities there, and it's just a matter of getting that out there, I suppose, to people within the Banyule community. Go, oh, hey, I'm part of this group, but I can also be part of the artistic group if there's enough people that are in there that have an artistic flair and want to show off their wares, and whether it's textiles, whether it's, as I said, it's such a diverse area of art, but it's certainly pretty exciting from that point of view. And it also, like you were saying, if people become passionate, in our case with the arts side of it, if they become passionate with the arts, then that's going to sustain the arts program, and it's going to, the more people that are coming on board from all walks of life, then it's only going to make the whole area and event bigger and better. And that can stem into dance, food, culture. We have had a number of cultural events where we have live performances and things like that. So there are avenues to go, hey, your whole community do dance, so that's another expression of art. So hey, why don't you organise within your group, and you might have a great facility within Banyule, or there's a space that can be used, and that can be advertised within the Banyule Open Studios. So it's a way of growing it, and I think like we was sort of saying for the very get-go, is that the more people understand each other, and the more we work together and walk together, the stronger everything's going to be. So that's just in the arts and culture, it's going to get stronger and stronger. And then obviously when you get strength, you start getting, the politicians, and, it becomes something where the council and everyone starts going, hey, we can fund this, or we can assist, or what do you want us to do? So your voice becomes stronger. So by doing that, it starts to become a positive conversation. And like you were saying before, some people that weren't prepared to listen suddenly start, their ears prick up, and they kind of think, well, hang on, I'm going to listen to these people because they now have got a strong voice within the community. So that also helps. Don't know if anyone else wants to add anything, but
yeah, no, that's absolute. That's the point. Absolutely true. It allows for people who are passionate to present, to be involved, to create, and some people come on the journey that are not on a committee or in a group. They come on the journey, they hear about it, and it creates a more powerful journey for that idea or that concept.
Yeah, like, I mean, being on any committee or within any group requires a lot of time as well. So, if you're time poor or, you want to be involved, you're still passionate, there's still that avenue to be part of it. And we're not expecting everyone to, have to do, there's a lot of the work's being done within the program. So people that come on board, they can literally, just sign up as a member and put their hand up, or if it's a community, they just have to approach Banyule Studios and say, hey, we want to be involved. What can we, how can we do it? And it's just a conversation, and then we find how it works from there moving forward. Yeah. And then there can be subcommittees from that area.
So,
and what's great too is that fortunately I'm in a position where a lot of people can come to me in my role and to say, hey, Alison, I've got an idea. This is it. What do you think? And the ideas that come to me are they're brilliant, they're possible, and I go, okay, I get this idea. I can see what you're trying to do. Whom do I know that I can connect you with, not just on council, but also within the community that has maybe done this before, has applied for a grant, has an example already set up that's similar but has a variation. How do I get this to work for this person? And often it's a journey. It's not something that's going to happen in a month or a week or a day. It's just you're on a journey. It's a great idea. Let's see if we can make this happen. These are some people you could connect with to help you in conversation to get it clear about what is going to help you make this possible. Because then there's value for other people. So often the people who come with ideas, it's not for them. It's actually for other people. That's gold. Giving of yourself for other people to benefit is priceless.
Yeah.
There's your B&I Givers Gain coming out, Alison.
Yeah, and it works.
Absolutely.
Works.
One of the things that I want to change this around a little bit. Obviously, Banyule is quite rightly proud of the efforts that they've been making with diversity and all of the forums and opportunities that they give for people to come in and contribute and express themselves. But normally I would ask Alison how council measure the success of these programs. But Phillip and Nos, I'd really like to get your views of what does success of these really look like for you? How do you measure whether it's been successful? What is it that you're seeing as the outcome you would like to achieve from these initiatives? Nos or Phillip, either one of you, feel free to share.
I'll let you go first.
So I think, success to me is feeling as though you've made a change to someone's life, and I think you see that through the jobs program that Banyule offers. I've heard of. I attended an International Women's Day event last year, and there was a young woman there who was one of the speakers, and she mentioned that she was one of the graduates of that program, and now she works at council. So you can really see how people's lives are transformed and changed if they've given that opportunity and that platform and that space. I think by having people go through these opportunities like the Inclusive Jobs program enables them to be skilled up and empowered and better equipped to enter the job market and job force, and then they can make a positive contribution to the local community. And when you hear about those success stories, you feel that's an example of a success that council has achieved by creating these programs and these opportunities for members of the community. And in terms of the festivals and the programs that are offered, I think it's I've been to some of the youth festivals, not that I fit the age demographic, and my daughters are under the age of 7, but because they know it's youth tailored, they want to go along, and it's been wonderful just to see them interact. We went to the the Weir Street Festival, and they saw the beauty of the beauty that the diversity brings. And they asked a lot of questions about the different rainbows and the different colour schemes and flags. And I think those conversation starters are very positive, and that's success to me, because I see my young girls wanting to know what's going on in the world around them. And I think these festivals and events make that possible and make that achievable. And we get children from a young age to truly accept the difference and the beauty in that difference, and that we don't then have that challenge of having to teach them about those differences when they are much older. I think education starts from a young age, not only in the classroom but at home as well. And I think council's really helping with that by fostering that inclusion and that diversity. So that's the measure of success to me, just seeing people's views changing. And I know, Alison, you said before you can't get through to everyone, but I think even just getting through to that one person is a fantastic start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Phillip?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, well said. Was doing these events, you see, people grow within the community, and it's a I suppose having these organisations like we've set up the Banyule Open Studios as a group of artists, but it can't be successful without support from local council. So Banyule getting behind it and driving a lot of it and helping with the funding, it means that we can set up websites, we can do promotion, we can have a base there that we can start to look forward and plan for because it takes a long time to plan for these events. So having council support from when we first started really gave us the foundations that we needed to actually go, hey, yes, we can actually achieve this now. And that inclusion, as I said, been spread to all sorts of people within the community, and the more these events continue to grow, as I said, we're starting to see dance performance. We're introducing, like even cook-ups or food, or there's other parts of the culture that can grow into that, and that can really be a forum for the whole thing. So council, Banyule doing these programs and providing platforms too, like we have now. We've got a community centre that for those that don't have a studio, they can set up a number of areas within a community hub. So in the Belfield hub, there's a artist run for the open studio that they can go to and set up. So, for those that are daunting, going, I'm only working, if they don't have a dedicated space and they're having to work in their bedroom, but they don't want the public to come in there, we've got these platforms, and that's through the support of the council. And then, we've got ILCH as well, which is the cultural centre. We've had a lot of our meetings there, as well as so that sort of community support's been really, really strong. From again, council providing those platforms and places to meet and to grow, and a lot of artists have used those spaces now to exhibit. And as an example of that, on the back of kind of a lot of those conversations, Barrbunin Beek are going to have a community exhibition coming up, which is another area that showing that sort of growth. And I've seen within just that community alone, there's been people that have put forward some artworks and sold those works, and the pride and self-belief that grows within that to say, how I can actually achieve this, I can do this, gives them purpose, and they feel like they can sort of, there's hope. So it's not just always about drawing a pretty picture. It's something that's really meaningful and can give really strong purpose for someone and direction. And so, yeah, from the artist point of view and that platform, it's really, really good. So, and I think, likewise, the Banyule Council have seen the growth and the how well these events have been attended. So it's a two-way street in that way, where because it's growing along, the chances of getting more support down the track is, we're not sitting on our laurels. We're putting in a lot of work. There's a lot of meetings lot of people within the community are driving these processes that need to happen in order for an event to sort of program to start. And so yeah, again, having those conversations with council, from little things too. I might even be putting up some banners within the council areas, and how do we do that? Are we able to get the support for that, and all those sorts of things to promote the whole event? So so definitely, I've seen from my personal experience in more recent times the council involvement with the festivals. Like you were saying before, we were able to set up an area. We've often attended those to help promote. So it's again another platform where organisations or groups can actually attend a festival and say, hey, can I put a stall up? Maybe they have some information. They might show some cultural things that introduce and again breaks down barriers, and also it's a good forum, a festival where people walk up. There's not that it's a nice easy way to approach something without having to go through paper trails and do all this sort of stuff. So they can go, hey, I want to be involved in it, or this is what you're going to do. So there's members there. So definitely those council festivals and really help from that point of view. So I've seen a lot of organisations grow from those. So
yeah,
I think that's been a great.
It's encouraging conversation at the very least. So the experience. So Noz, you mentioned Queer Street, and your girls asking questions. Phil, you talked about people coming and going. Asking, can we do this again? What about this? So it's the experience that's been created for people to participate in, which then inspires conversation somehow, some way, which then can lead to an idea, which then leads to something else that benefits others. It can become it can mean that the event is becomes bigger the following year, expanded somehow, or it can mean that something I can see something missing. Can we add it and derive another event or another activity leading from another conversation? So everything comes from an idea. Everything stems from an idea. And an idea starts up here, and it comes from our world, within our world. And we bring that to the table through a conversation. So providing the ideas are coming, there's inspiration and there's always possibility of creating something for others.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Pretty much out of time. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. I'd really like to thank you, Alison, Nos, and Phillip, for your time today and your insights.
Absolutely. Phil and Nos, thank you very much for contributing today. This is perfect. Really appreciate your input.
Thank you so much for having us both on.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And for being who you are.
And thank you. And thank you, Phil, for your insight. You've given me some great ideas. There might be some possibilities for some collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's about. The more we can do that. I was actually just I know we're closing up, but I was doing an artist residency at a school, primary school, and a very diverse school. And after we had all the kids showcase at the end of the year, so we had like the whole school was covered in works of art from the different age groups. And all the families came, and there was thousands of parents. And then what happened? The parents all cooked up different dishes, and it was amazing. All the different cultures coming together, and all the different foods, and then there was music, and it was a real celebration. So when I was a kid going to school, it was a sausage and bread, and that was about it. So multicultural can only bring success.
Absolutely.
I think we've just lost Nos, unfortunately, but I'll wrap this up by saying, look, for those who are watching, I hope that that this podcast has helped provide some help, understanding of the challenges of diversity, and that also, if you are somebody seeking assistance, that you feel that Banyule Council is a safe place for you to approach and seek support. There will be some links below in the content and the copy of this podcast that you can reach out and seek further help and assistance from. But again, Thank you, Phillip. Thank you, Alison, and Nos is just coming back in. So I'd love to thank, oh, she's gone again. I'd love to thank you all for your time. Have a great long weekend. I hope you've got something exciting planned. And the rest of you, hopefully you can join us next month for the champion chat. Thank you all.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Bye-bye.